Paul Frickman. I grew up in Clayton. My parents moved here in 1960. My grandparents lived in Watertown, lived in one of those beautiful Victorian homes. And he was the newspaper circulation manager for upstate New York. So occasionally I still run into people who know the Frickman name from the newspaper business, so I was quite surprised. So in 1960, my parents built the Castle ice cream, and it's still there. They offered it to me after 30 years, and I thought it was way too much work, and decided. So I lived in Florida for 50 years and moved back 3 years ago, and I love it up here. The history, the winters are kind of tough, so you have to find things to do in the wintertime. But the history you just can't deny, and being on the river is just such a special treat. So let's start. There's lots of Charles Emery information out there. So within the hour that we have today, I don't know if we're going to cover it all. So if you have any questions, I do suggest here we are. I do suggest, it's on the screen, is Rex Ennis's book, Always Young. And I think they might have some copies. An incredible band. And we'll try to cover a lot of the aspects of his life, but you might want to buy the book for a good story. Again, as I mentioned earlier, if you had a Forrest Gump type movie, Charles Emery would be the guy, because he just had a fascinating life. So let's get started. And if you have any questions, feel free to answer, or not answer, ask. Yeah. One of the aspects of Charles Goodwin Emery was that there wasn't a lot of pictures of him. So this is at the front steps of the castle, which was the second house that was built on Calumet Island. The first house was a wooden structure. Charles Emery made his money in the tobacco industry. And his ancestors came to Boston in 1635, heavy in the shipping industry. And his mother was a Goodwin, and they went in the tobacco industry.
Didn't he invent the cigarette rolling machine?
No.
That's what I heard. He invented it, he wouldn't sell it to the other companies, he'd only lease it, is what I heard.
I don't see any mention of that at all in the book.
Oh, okay, that's what I heard through the great.
You know, I knew he invented later on the cigarette rolling machine.
That's what he asked.
That's
He-
it, yeah.
He patented that
Oh, okay.
and made a ton of money on that. So one of the things about the tobacco industry to get people to buy, and it was mainly a chewing tobacco, was putting in baseball cards into the packs so that people would buy them. And I had some replicas from a Major League Baseball portfolio I purchased, some samples. And if you had those today, they'd be worth like $10,000 to $20,000 each. There's a nice postcard of the castle when it was still there. Now the only thing left on the island is the tower and the caretaker's house.
Now originally.
Do you see the orientation of that?
Yeah, originally it was two islands too, and they put the two islands together.
Right.
Yeah.
Where, I guess, where's the caretaker's house in that picture? Can you go back?
Go back one.
Oh, no, now you're asking me.
Oh, that's all right, don't worry about it. Kenny can tell me.
Previous?
I mean, I
Yeah.
walked past it, I just can't place it.
It's next to the tower, isn't it?
Probably,
Just right there, the tower.
previous.
You gotta move your mouse
Move your
down.
mouse to previous.
Move your mouse to previous.
Well, the mouse isn't moving.
Don't, honestly, don't worry about it.
Help me out. So the 400 room Frontenac Hotel, do we need to put it on not on the glass? Thank you.
You're welcome.
So is that red
the
roof
little
near
red
the
roof
tower?
by the
Oh,
tower, that's
that's
it.
it, okay.
That was built before anything else.
Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
And
was-
what is it? What was it?
It's a big house, a great big house.
Caretaker's house.
Caretaker's house.
And so when you take a tour around the island, you still see the caretaker's house.
Caretaker's
I
house.
never knew that was where the castle was either. I thought the castle was closer
That's
to
where
the
the
tower.
Patches used to live in that house,
Right.
Interesting.
and all the other ones are little cottages they rented all the time, and but now it's owned by one guy, so I don't know if he rents anything anymore.
There's a nice picture of it. And when they talk, in the book, when he talked, the description of the house, it was like the most magnificent house in the entire United States
No,
because of the construction.
the thing that's a shame is that we all say it was a tax fire that took it down.
The what?
I don't know if that's what Rex
Tax,
says.
somebody was tired of paying the taxes on it.
Paying the taxes. Right, because when he died, he left a trust to maintain it up until what, the 50s, and then they started struggling
Oh, okay.
with it being
Because I
made.
guess a bunch of Clayton people bought it, Harry Mercer and a bunch of people bought it.
Correct, they
Never
tried
had
to
an
make a go of it.
Awful
Yeah,
time,
Natalie's had a restaurant over there.
Yeah,
There's a nice picture of the fire.
and it burnt down in some astronomical amount of time, like a half an hour or something like that. It didn't take long, I guess, for it.
Yeah, and later on, they describe how it took an hour just to get the phone call out.
Oh,
Because
wow.
they didn't know how to operate the switchboard.
Oh,
And it wasn't
Yeah.
very old either.
And when Charles took it over after the section on the right, he built a section on the left. Another beautiful picture of it. So there's the story that they disassembled the ballroom, and the First Methodist Church in Watertown, they rebuilt the ballroom.
Oh,
And
because of all the granite in it probably.
all the red sandstone from Potsdam, red granite from Potsdam.
Because he owned a lot of the quarries around the river too.
Correct, yeah, and we're gonna discuss that, yep.
Paul,
Yes, ma'am.
you have some visitors?
Calumet Island's here.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, all right,
So this is Picton Island,
okay,
this is Potsdam,
okay,
this is probably sourced local, cause this is nice sandstone.
okay, so,
This is
Cali,
seawall.
the seawall would be built on
This
this?
is all the rubble for in the castle.
Okay.
This is what the castle was made of. Same.
Okay,
Red
and this is
Potsdam.
the Potsdam red,
Yep, red Potsdam,
okay,
okay?
yep, thank you very much, Mike. Yeah, okay, let's pass this around. Just kidding. Yeah. Isn't that cool? So the house in Watertown, the church in Watertown, it's dark like this. Now, when I went to there was nobody there, and I think the Methodist church is actually closed. And when I went to the property, I saw behind it another house that was the same brick. And I went around, and it's this magnificent house that is styled after Calumet Castle, an absolutely magnificent house. So it's in Watertown. I can bring up the street that it's on. So going a little out of sequence, he bought a couple quarries.
Hey,
Two.
can I point my finger real quick just to
Yeah.
tell you something that's something.
Yeah.
The wine cellar is underneath this room.
Okay. Were you around when they discovered it?
I never got to go in it, but I knew it was there.
Okay.
Oh my.
What was the year for the burn? When did it happen?
What year did it
What
burn?
year did it burn down?
I think 1957.
Wow.
1950.
1957.
I'm sorry.
This house.
Yeah.
Yeah, the house, not the hotel. Yeah, not the hotel. There is a slide presentation of his life, and what we're gonna do is I'll just go over that with you, so we don't have to go through the slides. So he got his early start in the tobacco industry at the age of 18 with his uncle. He moved to California in about 1870, and established himself as, when they did a census, as a tobacco buyer. And eventually, he ended up buying his uncle's tobacco business. He moved back to New York. So while he was in California, he had 3 children, moved back to New York and had 2 more children. A couple of them passed away. So in the tobacco business, again, proliferating the tobacco chewing industry, and it was so expensive to roll cigarettes that the cost was prohibitive at the time that he invented a cigarette rolling machine. And it cut the costs down significantly. And all of a sudden, the cigarette market exploded. And eventually, the cigarette rolling industry owned 90% of the business. And the Sherman antitrust law came about because of these large monopolies and ended up breaking up the tobacco industry into 5 separate tobacco companies. And today, what was that? Old Judge was one of them. And another one was Old Corporal. So throughout his life, his main money was made in the tobacco industry. And the Sherman antitrust law came about in 1911, and he passed away in 1915. So during this time, he got involved in other businesses. And another business that he got into was
Wonder how many more people died of cigarette smoke
Yeah.
after the machine was made.
Amen.
Yeah.
I thank him for all the enjoyment I ever had.
Yeah, I smoked a few cowboy killers in my day.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Let's get the right glasses on. So by 1879, he was buying additional patents to improve the tobacco and cigarette business, specifically improving processes, taking hand-wrapped cigarettes to machine wrap. These patents helped build the wealth and began to revolutionize the industry. In 1882, he was 46 years old. He purchases Powderhorn Island from the widow of Daniel Lawrence for $1,000 and changes it back to Calumet Island. And Calumet Island is an Indian name for peace pipe. And I guess the French, when they transversed here in the 1600s, they called them pipe stops. And if you look at Calumet Island from the top, it looks like a powder horn. So in 1883 is when he built his first home, made out of wood. And then when they tore that down and built a stone house, they took the wood and moved all the wood to Picton Island, and the house is supposed to be still there. Did you know that,
The
Jordan?
Heineman's house.
What is it?
Heineman's house.
There you go.
Yeah.
Heineman's house, and it's still there. So when he was 50 years old in 1886, he ended up losing employees on the factory line, and production skyrocketed, prices fell. In 1886, baseball cards were sold inside, specifically marked packages. They promoted the cigarette sales like they promised, and over the generations, the value of these baseball cards have gone up terrifically, and $10,000 to $20,000 a piece for these cards. In the research library, there's actually a couple binders on Emery, and there's actually a card in there. So in 1888, he signed agreements with the competitors and received large profits through royalties. he received 25 cents for every 1,000 cigarettes produced. So in 1889, the American Tobacco Company was formed. The merger of the 5 largest companies, net worth was $25 million. Goodwin and Company was 10% of the overall company, and Charles was elected treasurer. In 1890, the U.S. government established the Sherman Antitrust Act. And 1894, he replaces the wooden structure with red sandstone, that's great that you brought that in.
Yeah.
In 1898, he was 62 years old, he purchased the old Frontenac Hotel on Round Island and goes about renovation and rehabilitating it. The Round Island House, then Frontenac Hotel, was first built 20 years earlier. Transformed the hotel in the glamour expected of the wealthy age, fine dining, leisure. I used to be a recreation director, and looking at the kinds of activities that they had at this hotel, they had they had a golf course on the property, they had balls, they had festivals, they had fundraisers, they had every type of leisure activity, and again, people would bring their families up from New York and spend the summer there, and because of the proliferation of railroads, they would take the businessmen would take an overnighter from New York and arrive on the island and board one of these gigantic ferries that would take these people to all these different islands, and they would come back on Sunday night and be back to work on Monday.
Did the Frontenac Hotel, Paul, have any of the hot stand stone in it? Or was it all wood?
I think it was all wood. I don't recall ever reading anything on the red sandstone being in the hotel.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Emery got married to Francina in 1836. So in 1899, his first wife dies. And they believe that he was having an affair and married Mrs. Irene Smith Boynton in 1901. And she was 15 years younger than he was. So the rumor mill the day was alive and active, some that his mistress before the marriage. Irene had a major effect on Calumet Castle in the construction, transformed the ballroom and held spectacular events. They believe the ballroom was the largest private ballroom in the United States. She also was a big fundraiser, and Emery, one of his charitable organizations, one of his charitable activities was down the street here was the KSC Hall, that he gave $200, and they built the church there and started a first congregational church and the Clayton Boys Club. And his wife was a big advocate of supporting that, and she would enlist the actress May Irwin to do fundraising. And so she had it was called a long fete, F-E-T-E.
Oh,
Party?
Does that mean party?
fate.
And she would do one every year, and to help support the Clayton Boys Club. They had a bowling alley in the basement. So yeah. So his second wife dies at the age of 56 on his 71st birthday.
Happy birthday.
Now, one year they did go to. One year the castle was closed, and they spent the entire year in Europe. And believe that she was sick during that time. 1906, I think the castle was closed the whole year.
Did they actually call it Calumet Castle back then?
He called it the Stone House, but people called it Calumet Castle. Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. A couple of names that Charles Emery acquired during his time here was the guardian angel of Clayton, and the Lord of the Upper River. So Irene was very popular, and her funeral was at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. Since George Bolt and he were friends. After that, he lived in the caretaker's house, and no one was to live in the castle proper, similar to George Bolt's castle experience. Business challenges, 1911, he was 75 years old. Antitrust laws focused him to dissolve his tobacco monopolies. And after 2 years of litigation, the American Tobacco Company is finally broken up. All right, a couple of his okay, he died in 1915, and in his obituary, they listed that Charles Emery was involved in the following organizations: the New York Yacht Club, the Thousand Island Yacht Club, the New York Chamber of Commerce, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Union League of Manhattan, the Metropolitan Club, and the Lawyers Club. So he was involved. When he was at the Frontenac, he did a lot of the sailing activities. And when he passed, I think he had 46 boats, craft, that were associated with his name. He had a 145-foot boat called the Calumet, and I think the first one was called the Nina, which was, I think, after one of his daughters.
I think they were stored on
Washington Island. Yeah, I saw a picture.
If you go to the further side of Washington Island in the river and look, there's train tracks still
Isn't
there.
the train track?
Still there.
Yeah, so me on Steele's Point, I can look out the front window and see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've seen a picture of the sloop being wintered over there.
But while with your boat, you can see the tracks just as plain as can be.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the islands he owned, was Washington Island. Okay, some of his charitable organizations, we talked about the Casey Hall, the St. Mary's Church, he donated a painting, and in New York, he funded a kindergarten that was funded by a lot of philanthropic people at the time, Carnegie, and it was 55 children, a melting pot, and he supported that until his death, so for like 9 years. And I understood from reading the obituary that when he died, none of his money went to charitable organizations, it all went to the family. So when he was building the new wing of the Frontenac Hotel, he needed housing for his employees. So he bought on Wellesley Island Grandview Park. And that was a hotel at the time. And the theory is that he bought it to eliminate competition. But Irene made it a school for the deaf and mute. And then when he needed housing for his employees, he tore down the hotel and built it on Picton Island. So he owned a quarry on Picton Island, and he needed a place for his employees to stay. So they tore it down and rebuilt it on Picton Island.
The question I've always had is, in his stone quarries, how many one-eyed stone quarries were there? Because there was no such thing as safety glasses back then.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that actually eventually happened to his quarries, why they eventually went out of business, was when the new laws came in for workman's compensation and disability and injuries, that he couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
So he had a 400, what's the size of Picton Island? 400 acres? I think he owned the whole island. And he owned 20% of Grindstone Island.
Will Salisbury had a whole bunch of pictures of that quarry. That were
Really?
I don't know where the pictures have gone now, but
They described the red granite as the finest granite in the world. And that you could cut out a 75-foot monolith out of a piece of it. It was that.
What I heard about our granite is they stopped using our granite because it was harder than the other granites to work with. Yeah.
The granite.
Vermont granite was easier to work with.
Or easier to work
yeah,
with?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the quarry
Because of the
on, the
hardness.
quarry on Grindstone Island wasn't the same.
Actually, there's a whole bunch of quarries, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess if you go to the quarry on Grindstone Island, it's like the day they left. There's still cut pieces laying there.
There's,
It's privately owned now, the land is.
yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. There's like 7 quarries in a row that loop through the middle of the island, and I go on all the
Yeah,
quarries.
right. He did donate an acre so they could build the Grindstone School. So another one of his charitable activities. Yes, he did at one time offer to rebuild the Riverside Drive, and the state turned down the bond for reasons I don't know.
Well, the details are, he wanted to move all the businesses back and make it all a park downtown. And he wanted to turn the businesses around so that he didn't have to look at their back doors all the time or something like that.
You wanted a
And
nicer view from Calumet.
Calumet.
Oh,
And so somehow,
what you've
that's
heard.
why it got
yeah,
voted
I know
down.
he had some quarry offices on the street,
Yeah,
and he donated granite for the rebuilding of,
but he didn't like looking at all the back of the buildings.
yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, their laundry hung out probably.
Yeah.
It probably would have been a win-win if it had happened.
So some of the red granite, $8 million went to Cuba. 130,000 tons went to Oswego for the harbor. 3 million bricks went to Chicago. The trim and some of the exterior was the Jefferson County Jail, which is abandoned and a piece of,
Yeah.
Looks awful.
yeah. The Nathan Ford Monument in Ogdensburg, which I don't think I've ever seen it. And also donated, or also sold to the American Natural History Museum in New York City.
This was granite from Grindstone?
From Picton Island.
From Picton, okay.
From Picton.
He
Yeah.
didn't sell it,
Huh?
he underwrote the cost.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, it just got prohibitive, right, because of labor costs and, yep. So other Emery enterprises besides tobacco. He was the director of the Liberty National Bank in New York City. He was the founding director of the First National Bank in Clayton. He was a director of the Market and Fulton National Bank. In mining, he owned land, the Southern Birmingham Coal and Coke Company, and Alabama, and the Picton Island Quarry. He also, when he lived in California, he purchased land where present Santa Barbara is, and purchased 100 acres, and he willed it to his son, and Standard Oil Company found oil on the land, and he was getting $12,000 a day in royalties from oil that was on that land. He also bought into a automobile company. Yeah, the Frontenac, and I guess there's only one existing in the world. And it was from Abendroth and Root Manufacturing Company. And it was 12 acres. And on it, it was gray iron and brass works, foundry, 2 boilers, forge shops, pipe mill, sheet iron mill, plate metal, a drum shop, and they produced from 1905 to 1913 100 cars. And probably the closest car that what his cars look like would be this, and this is a 1905 Rolls Royce. So that would be the kind of car. There's one in Watertown, but I don't think it's the Frontenac, but it is. They had a car in Watertown as well that's displayed behind the museum. So this would be the kind of car that, and they have a section in the book of his secretary going for a ride and just being scared to death. So Abendroth and Rue, there was a guy named Schott, and he made duplex engines, and he put a couple of the engines in his sloops. And at the same time, this guy named Schott was making air brakes for trains. And Emery got a seating with Westinghouse. And all of a sudden, the air brake railway company took off. And the air brake ended up in Watertown. And my brother-in-law worked in the air brakes before they closed. So they made air brakes all over the world. And so this was another one of Emery's businesses.
He started the air brake.
He started it.
Yeah.
So he put the money in to get it going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Schott was the inventor and Emery was the money man. Yeah. Emery was also involved with putting together watch cases and making watch cases. There's only kind of like a paragraph in the book about that. Behind you to your right is the St. Lawrence skiff, right? By Alexander Bain. All right, so Alexander Bain invented the skiff 1887 to 1890. In 1894, in 1890, Emery put pressure on Bain and bought the company from Bain. Bain went to Skinny Atlas and started another company of skiffs. In 1894, he sold the company to A.G. Spalding Sporting Goods, in Ogdensburg, because it was cheaper to make it in Ogdensburg, and he ended up selling it to Spalding in Ogdensburg. Part of my little traveling museum is patented inventions, and I happened to come across this Schenectady putter, patent date March 24th, 1903, and it was from the Spalding brothers. So, and Spalding was also one of the big into writing the early baseball rules. Yep. Okay, islands. Do you think he owned a bunch of islands? So he had Powderhorn Island, he bought for $1,000. Shot Bag, which was the island next to it, which became Governor's Island. He owned 20% of Grindstone, Picton, Calf Island, which I have no idea. Huh?
No idea.
No idea. Washington Island, Maple Island, Meade Island, Grandview Park, Pine Island, Jolly Island, and a chain of islands that I can't remember the name of. A bunch of small islands. So he owned quite a bit of real estate.
Wow.
He also owned real estate in the Adirondack Mountains. He owned real estate in Florida next to Tallahassee. We talked about his California holdings, and one of his neighbors was McNally from Rand McNally, and there's a McNally estate on Wellesley Island still. I'm thinking I covered most of what. Oh, God, it's early.
Could you say that again about on Wellesley Island and McNally? What was the association there?
They had land next to each other in California.
Okay.
So when Emery held on to that land forever, and McNally also had land. I guess it was currently Santa Barbara, but they were neighbors.
But they were also neighbors in California.
Well, that's where they met,
That's-
in California.
That's a connection.
Yes,
Yeah.
right, yeah. Emery traveled quite a bit, and he would come up with New York in the Empire Express train, I believe was the name of it. And the train, and he would travel with Pullman and Bull, and that train was I can't think of the right word, 112 miles an hour, clocked at 112 miles an hour. So the engineer of that particular train became the engineer at Adventure Town.
Oh,
So Adventure Town was in Clayton, or was in Alex Bay, and the engineer for that train ended up being the engineer out of the train at Adventure Town. I went to Adventure Town before they closed.
Can I take us off course just for a minute?
Oh, no, yeah.
The family that I worked for came up in their train car, but their train car was from another track, was different, and when they got somewhere in New York State, they had to stop and change all the wheels underneath the train to the other track system, and then come up, gauge, and then come up through, and when they went back, they had to do the same thing.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some old pictures of Clayton, where the Harbor where the Harbor Hotel is now, of 20 trains a day coming from New York City.
Wow.
And so the story of the Frontenac Hotel was that the orchestra stayed in the annex, and it was a cigarette that was thrown and in there, and they were gonna try to put it out themselves, and found out that so they went to get hoses, and the hoses in different sections had different size nozzles. And again, it took an hour to get the phone calls, to get the Clayton Fire Department, the Water Fire Department, the Watertown Fire Department to come out. And by then, it just got.
Pull the foundation off.
Yeah, yeah. One of the problems that they had after the Frontenac fire was looting. And they made an effort to save a lot of the artwork and a lot of the Turkish rugs, which I understand were stolen and then left behind. And they even mention in the book of people being arrested after the fact for having stolen furniture. And that they actually went to their house and the guy had a chair from the Frontenac Hotel.
So they got things out of the hotel, but then it was stolen after.
Yes, isn't there I think there's a case around the corner that has a bunch of the Frontenac Hotel, China. And some of the guests at the Frontenac Hotel. And we got certainly a great marking system here. Yeah, great, Paul.
Does he still, are there ancestors that still have ties to the area? Or have
You know,
they-
there's a whole chapter in the ancestors aspect of the children, the grandchildren, the great grandchildren, and it seemed like they just kind of
Disappeared.
disappeared into the woodwork. I don't know, Kenny, if you knew anything about the ancestors.
The family that I worked for, the kids that I dealt with were the 7th generation to come up here.
Wow.
Yeah,
Seventh generation.
7th generation to come up here.
So you knew some of them.
I knew, well, all the ones that are alive now, yeah.
Yeah, right.
But they come up every summer.
And then would they stay at the caretaker's house?
They stayed in, they had Goose Island, Arabella Island, was their whole island. And,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
they also, their family bankrolls the YMCA and YWCA.
Oh, did they?
They do.
Bankroll, you saying as they support it?
They support it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so, guests, 1899. This is from the Syracuse Daily Standard. The Justice and Mrs. J.C. Hogaboom, Columbia County, New York. Mrs. William Penn, Director of National Traders Fire Insurance Company. Sir Henry Blake, and Lady Blake, Governor of Hong Kong. Lord Thomas Brassey, the first Earl of Brassey and President of the British Chamber of Commerce, former Governor of Victoria in Australia. William Howard Taft, Secretary of War in Teddy Roosevelt's administration and later President. The 8th Duke of Newcastle. They said the most extraordinary guest was the Maharaja. He was said to have had over $40 million in jewels alone, and an income of $2 million a year. Mr. and Mrs. Howard Gould, son of Wall Street investor Jay Gould. H.B. Frost and Mrs. Frost, president of the Holland Submarine Company. Edison was known to have been a guest up there. I guess, and the train was called the Club Train. Oh, they came.
Thank
you. Yep. So in the back of the book, some of the employees' names, they also give some of the conventions that were held at the new Frontenac. The New York State Underwriters Association, the National Confectioners Association, and they did this by year. New York State Board of Underwriters, the State Press Association, International Association of Accident Underwriters, the Malleable Iron Association and Steel Founders, the American Dental Trade Association, New York State Bankers Association, the outing of the Jefferson County Supervisors, annual outing, Conference of the New York Central Operating Officials, Western Union Fire Insurance Company, Travelers Insurance Company, Edison Association of Illuminating Companies, Western Union Association of Fire Underwriters, Canadian Freight Association, New York State Bankers Association, Empire State Editorial Association, Western Union Insurance Underwriters, American Electric Motor Manufacturers, New York State Bankers Association. And this is basically from 1899 to 1911, Convention of the Episcopal Diocese of Central New York, the American Society of Electrical Engineers, and in 1911, the Fire Underwriters Association, which I thought was kind of a...
Well, it's like
I wonder if they saw that, you know.
It's like I tell people now when they're walking around Clayton, you don't know who you're bumping elbows with in Clayton.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sure. So they had a winter carnival ball, August 1904, and they named a bunch of the boats that were there, and Emery had a 145-foot boat. Peacock had a 99-foot boat there. Sophia, 75-foot. The Empress, Thomas Wheeler, 96-foot. The Cherokee, 80-foot, was Vander Gifts. 65-footer by Boyer, 110-footer. 85, Costello. 82, 126-footer. Vanderbilt had a 75-foot boat named Virginia. Can you imagine all these boats all in the same? They were all at the hotel.
Well, the biggest thing about them is they're not
1904.
fiberglass boats. They require a lot of maintenance every day.
Every day. Yeah, 87-footer by Hayden, 85-footer, 99-footer, 65-footer. I understand they also participated in the Gold Cup, which is an annual race. Yeah, regatta of the fastest race boat. And my parents were volunteers at the Antique Boat Museum for 50 years. And they got, and mother was like a hostess at the Gold Cup. So we've been to the Gold Cup building. It's all those Gold Cup, and this is the 1909 and 1910 Dixie 2. He had boats in the Gold Cup race, but I don't think any of his boats ever won. So, yeah, so this was a paddle that was given my mom and dad from the Antique Boat Museum.
Maybe you mentioned it, but what first brought him to the Thousand Islands?
The only thing the book mentions is that when President Grant came up here, that once President Grant came up here with his entourage, then the islands were discovered. And that was 1870.
When the train system come in.
Oh, and certainly the train system,
Yeah.
you know, saying that you could take a train any place
To
in
New
the
York
United
to here.
States.
That was
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Now, Emery did cohort with George Bolt to build, because of the automobile industry, to build a road from Alex Bay to Clayton and have it lit the whole way, a boulevard.
Wow.
But the steamship companies said no. So they actually lobbied against it, and he never did get it built because of them. Yeah, yeah. Now the only other mystery is there's a in the binder of Charles. I don't know if it's Emery or Calumet Castle. They talk about when the before they tore down the building, before the fire, they auctioned off a lot of the contents to raise money. And my grandfather, being in the newspaper business, acquired 3 paintings from a man that owed him money. And we speculate, of course it's a rumor, we speculate that this,
You need help with that, Bo?
no, thank you. Yeah, let's take it with me. There we go. So my father said that my grandfather got these at an auction. Got these from a man that owed him money, and that man got them from an auction. And on the back, it does say that it was put together in Watertown, New York. And Charles Emery went to Paris and bought a lot of art. And so the rumor is that, and I've got to do the research, is that this is one of the paintings that hung in the castle. Yeah, nice story, huh? Nope. Gotta put, here, we'll put it right here. Because I certainly won't be able to put it back on the stand. So what was the culture like of Charles Emery? So might have had a camera like this. The Anthony View camera. Might have had a calendar that looked like that. Thank you. What else was what might have he witnessed during his time? 1886. The Statue of Liberty. So he might have been around when the Statue of Liberty. The teddy bear. What year was the teddy bear? 1902. With Roosevelt didn't kill the bear and saved it, and so he might have witnessed that. 2 World Series. The Boston Red Sox, 1908. The Chicago White Sox, 1909. So he might have actually attended those baseball games. I'm promoting the movie.
Was the Iron Building?
The Flatiron Building, 1903. So he might have witnessed the building of that. Because he lived in New York City.
Certainly. Possible.
He might have had an Edison record player. These are the little containers, you know, they had the round tubes. So he might have had a record player in his house.
So have you talked with Tom Hanks yet?
I'm sorry?
Have you talked with Tom Hanks yet?
Ron Howard.
Or anyway, yeah, right. Oh, great idea. Do you like the idea?
I do.
A camera, Kodak camera that he might have had from during that, before 19. So I had to pick out things from my little traveling museum that were before 1915.
Remington statue.
This was Henry Ford's race car. It certainly wasn't painted red, but this was 1914. So he might have known Henry Ford. Talked about Abendroth. This is Dr. Kilmer's swamp root, and there's reference that he actually knew this guy, and he was a multi-millionaire distributing this stuff. Now, you can still smell it too. The first Harley Davidson, 1903. He might have also witnessed first what big race? The Indianapolis 500. Now, I actually have a model of the car that won the Marmon Wasp, but it was my father's, and I was too afraid to bring it because I'd break it. One of Henry Ford's early 1903, one of his early cars, and this was actually a live figure of Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp was alive during that time, went to Hollywood. So he could have been driving one of Henry Ford's cars. This was a little coal miner's lamp from turn of the century.
There was another story too about Calumet, about the caretaker's daughter or somebody drowning, and them having to search for days and days to find it. Is near Christmas time or something like that.
Yeah, and that is mentioned in the book. They talk about some tragedies of workers, of people that the caretaker's daughter, and actually I thought the
Daughter, somebody else.
I thought the actual caretaker was also
okay.
drowned.
And they lost.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. I had to find an old Thousand Islands, and this is my second one. I've got one of the White Mountains, and so this has got some really cool pictures of some of the hotels that were during the era, and a nice map. So feel free afterwards if you would like to look at any of this. Another thing that he might have been witness to was the stereograph. And this is William McKinley's presidential speech. And so I picked out a few of them of moments that, again, he might have witnessed during his lifetime. So the stereograph, he might
I'm
have.
glad you moved that.
What?
The handle, I'm like, how can you put your face up to that with that?
Oh, I know, right. Yeah. And this actually moves back and forth. And I got this at Gettysburg, at an antique store in Gettysburg. So they're very cool. I only have one eye, so it doesn't make any difference what it looks like to me. You know, I don't get that three-dimensional thing. So, but very, very cool. Yeah. And the other thing that I picked up that might have been around during his time was this paperweight of 76. And you wonder whether this was 1876. I've had a couple of people tell me it's actually a very old paperweight. He also might have attended the did I bring it? The Centennial, and I did not bring it. I have an old Centennial picture, again 1876. So he was too old to be in the Civil War. By then, he was in his late 20s during the Civil War, so he was too late to do that. But I'm thinking it was an exciting time. Now, there was rumors that after the Frontenac Hotel burned down, that they were going to rebuild it. And that there was talk of getting investors together and rebuilding it. But by 1911, the Victorian age had pretty much started to peter out. People were using the car, not the train, and all these hotels along the river burned down. And that there just wasn't the need anymore. And that it all just kind of...
Clayton dried up too for a while, didn't they? There was prohibition in Clayton, no alcohol.
There's a little chapter in the book about prohibition in Clayton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 generations back.
Yeah. So, any questions? So thank you very much for indulging me and learning about Charles Emery. And feel free to look at any of the